2023 at 7:01 p.m. Can I get a roll call?
Mr. Berardi?
Here.
Mrs. Deck? Here. Mrs. Lala? Here. Mrs. McPhillips? Here. Mrs. Theodore? Here. Mrs. Urbach Barnfield? Here. And Mr. Trabuzio?
Here. We have a quorum. Please stand for the pledge of allegiance.
Of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Mr. Berardi, would you read the mission statement?
The mission of Norwood School District 80 is inspiring educational excellence in a nurturing environment.
Thank you. Let's celebrate some success.
Well, we had 82 students try out for come out to participate in cross country. So that was extremely exciting. That's the largest we've ever had. We had to order 2 buses to transport them. So that's wonderful news.
Anything else? Okay.
If you would like another,
I'll do one. I'm very excited. We actually have we were able to fill our physical therapist opening that we had. I know been very difficult to find someone as, just an educator shortage overall. But we're very thrilled to have Christina Lewis join our team. She will be with us 2 days a week, supporting students with gross motor challenges, and then we'll also be supporting collaboration with teams and with parents as well.
And then we also had a very successful event on Friday evening with the back to school bash. It was a little chilly outside for some of us, but it was definitely an eventful evening. It was great to see the community coming around. There was a lot of people that were out there and supporting vendors, where some of those funds will go back to the PTA. So I just want to say thank you to the PTA for their partnership and supporting that event and getting that up and running, in addition to everything else that the PTA works on throughout the school year. And also did see some members of NSF, selling chocolate out there, which has been another, huge undertaking to get the year started. Did I hear there were like 14 boxes that were sold?
Yeah.
That was amazing.
And if I could just do a push for PTA membership, please make sure that you join PTA. The class at each building with the most submissions will receive a pizza party. So if you're listening, join PTA, $10.
Thank you. And now I'd like to call to order a public hearing regarding Norwood School District 80, fiscal year 24 budget. Can I get a roll call?
Mr. Berardi?
Yes.
Mrs. Deck?
Yes.
Mrs. Lala?
Yes.
Mrs. McPhillips?
Yes.
Mrs. Theodore?
Yes.
Mrs. Urbach Barnfield?
Yes.
Mr. Trabuzio?
Yes. We have a quorum. C, receive comments from the public regarding the proposed fiscal year 24 Norwood School District budget. Any comments?
Anybody have comments? Mr. Ballas?
No. As you know, Illinois law requires that a public hearing be held prior to the adoption of the budget. Well, I'd like to adjourn this public hearing. Let me add, a public hearing is not a dialogue or question and answer session between the board and the audience. It is a time when the public can present information and express opinions. The board's role is to listen intently to all comments presented by the public, and then consider these comments when the board deliberates on the adoption of the budget. And with no comments, then I'd like to adjourn this public hearing at 7:06. All in favor? All opposed? The hearing is adjourned at 7:06. Back to our open meeting. Action item, consider motion to approve the agenda as presented. Nothing's changing, we will take it as presented. Do notice, discussion items have been moved up. Superintendent Busick and myself, thought it was a good idea, and I think it will help. Can I have a motion to approve the agenda as presented?
Motion.
Molly and Lauren? Have a roll call.
Mr. Berardi?
Yes.
Mrs. Deck?
Yes.
Mrs. Lala? Mrs. McPhillips?
Yes.
Mrs. Theodore? Mrs. Urbach Barnfield?
Yes.
Mr. Trabuzio?
Yes. Motion passes. Recognition of visitors. Thank you, Dr. Schilling. And I said it a minute ago, George would have been here. Correspondence, there is no correspondence. Public participation, none to be had. We have one FOIA request, as published, can be found on the agenda, whoever would like to see it. Presentation, District 8 communication, attendance, and target procedures for 24.
Good evening. So this year, District 80 has tweaked some of our communication, attendance, and tardy protocol procedures. So family communication looks different this year than it has in years past. Similar to how we do academics and behavior, we're also tiering family communication. So tier 1 communication, which is a communication that every single student in that class receives, can be done electronically. For tier 2 or tier 3, so if a group of students need to be notified and their parents, or one student, it is now a phone call. It is no longer done electronically.
And the biggest push here is that we just want to open up communication with families. So we want to move away from those digital forms of communication like Class Dojo or Remind, and use the phone. Have those important conversations with those parents and open up opportunities for dialogue and share our concerns.
So if a parent reaches out electronically to a staff member can respond electronically once, but if the conversation requires more clarity, staff must pick up the phone. And for a variety of reasons, but sometimes as simple as Bobby forgot his shoes today, Bobby needs to go to the office, can be seen in an email as, oh, my child did something wrong, or it's like, Bobby forgot his shoes today, he's gonna go to the office, and whenever you can drop him off, that'd be great. The voice behind a message can really affect the meaning of the message, so that's why we're asking our staff to switch to this mode of communication. And 4 or 5 weeks in, it really has opened up to some nice conversations and building those relationships with parents. That's more difficult to do if you're only communicating electronically. It's a three-tiered approach, as I mentioned. Tier 1, which is for all students in the grade level. You might get an email Sunday night, this is the homework for 5th grade. If you have any questions, contact your teacher. Nothing personal, nothing specific, a general message that can't really be conveyed either way, it's just informational.
Tier 2 is any sort of communication that's to a specific student, so it could be academic in nature, concerns about their academic progress or moving into an intervention, or it could be a behavioral concern. So those are those phone calls, not texts, not dojo messages. We want to make sure if we have a concern, we're taking the time to communicate about it on the phone. And then tier 3, those would be maybe more in-person conferences. We've had a few phone conversations, the students continuing to not make that academic progress or continuing to have behavioral concerns. We're moving on to those in-person meetings.
This is a change from previous years, and especially at the middle school, when parents were used to getting text messages about missing work or text messages about something specific to their child. They're no longer receiving that form of communication. Next why are we focusing on attendance? So this school year, we have adopted a new attendance protocol. We're focusing on attendance for academic growth. You need to be in school in order to receive the Tier 1 instruction, and you're measured on that Tier 1 instruction, so it's important that you're at school. Social and emotional growth as well. School absolutely is for academics, but almost as importantly, school is where you learn how to be a friend, where you learn how to interact with others, and it's important that you're present to learn that. And then providing early interventions and resources to support students in attending school. So typically, before we would take note of how long a student was gone, but we're putting more supports in. So if a student's struggling to get to school, or if a family's struggling to drop their child off at school, we can intervene. And again, it's the communication with parents. So we know life is busy, we know there's extenuating circumstances, but we need to know why students aren't at school. And we're also doing a tiered approach. So Tier 1 for all students. We establish the expectations about being at school on time every day. We have routines and celebrations. So this year at Giles, we're doing grade wars, and we're keeping attendance of which grades have the most students in attendance, which grades have the least amount of tardies, and celebrating that school-wide. So every Monday, we run an attendance report, and after a student is absent for 5 days, we reach out to the families in a very supportive way. Hi, I've noticed, so-and-so has been absent 5 days. Is there anything we can do to help you get your child to school? Most of the phone calls have been, no, we've just been really sick. Okay, great. Well, absolutely, if your child is sick and they need to stay home, they need to recover. But in those students that might be avoiding school, that phone call provides a gateway to learning more about why the child isn't coming to school. And it's also tiered, so after 5 absences is a phone call. After 7 absences is an in-person meeting with a check-in, check-out plan on student attendance. And then if students have 9 absences, we escalate it further. Now, this isn't a blanket. There are some students who get struck COVID. They truly are that sick in 1 year. It's a case-by-case basis, and it's a very supportive outreach to families. Just, we're thinking about you. We want you in school. We understand sometimes you can't be, but if there's anything we can do to help you get to school more often, please let us know.
And especially for students who maybe are sick for illness, it's a great opportunity to reach out and say, how's that transition been coming back to class? Are they struggling keeping up with their work? Is there anything we need to know? So that's been a really great opportunity to communicate with parents. So we're also focusing on tardiness. And the reason we want to focus on that, especially the big focus this year is on social and emotional learning. And most of our social and emotional learning that happens both at Giles and at Lee happens in the beginning of the day. So students are missing 5-10 minutes a day. They're missing that core opportunity to build a community with their class, and they're missing that social emotional learning instruction through advisory or at Lee and morning meeting. So we really want to get that instruction to the kids. If they're not here, well, that just can't happen. Often when we speak with parents about tardiness, it's usually a family issue. Kids aren't driving themselves to school for the most part. So we're looking to offer that support, that guidance. What can we do to help you get your child to school on time? Is there anything we need to know? Is anything going on at home? So again, just opening up that opportunity to communicate. So you'll notice again, we have another tiered system. Systems is a big thing that we're focusing on this year. The same thing goes with tardies. So of course, with the Tier 1 supports, we're emphasizing the need for everybody to be here at school on time, having those routines, having those celebrations built into our schools. Then the support kind of changes from there. So same thing, we run those tardy and attendance reports on Mondays. If a student has 3 tardies, that's when we make those phone calls home. And then we also meet with that student to talk about the importance of being on time. If it's something where they're oversleeping, not getting their breakfast and their morning routines down, we can help support the student with that. If they have 4 to 5 tardies, we can call again, have a follow-up email, another meeting with the child. 6 to 8 tardies, we're making those parent-guardian meetings put into place so we can see how we can support again. 9 to 11 tardies, we're usually getting them on a special check-in, check-out plan. and having a meeting with either the social worker and or myself and Dr. Raviola or at Giles and Mr. Aaron's to set up a support plan for the students. And then if there's 12 plus tardies, at that point we are looking at doing a home visit just to make sure everything's okay. After going through all those processes before, if we're still not making some headway with getting here on time, there might be some bigger concerns that we need to involve ourselves in at that level.
And tardiness is a little bit different than absences because absent, you're sick, we want you to recover. Tardy is, you're getting to school, we need you to start your morning routine maybe a little bit earlier than you're starting it right now.
You also share that you meet the students when they come in.
Yes. So every morning, I go after morning collaboration, I go down to where our new main office is. A few mornings there's been student issues I've had to attend to, but for the most part, I am down there and you have to get your tardy pass from my hand. So, and I'll tell the students like, okay, this is your second tardy. Next time it's a phone call home and let them know the process. And a few of the phone calls I made Monday, they're like, I know, my kid said you were gonna call me, but the traffic between Lee and Giles is just crazy. And I said, I'm so sorry to hear that. You know, we're doing the best we can. I said, I'm sure you are. You might need to start your morning routine maybe a few minutes earlier. Or maybe you can't drop your student off right at the gate, but they could get out 5 cars before and make it into our building before the bell rings.
And at Lee, I try to be outside after our morning collaboration meetings, trying to get the kids in as soon as I can. And then once we close our doors, I'm in the office checking with all the students who are coming in tardy with our school administrative assistant. So it really helps to, you know, have those conversations with the kids when they're coming in as well. So we're just trying to increase the communication, increase the support for families and the students.
We're also monitoring our attendance records for students in other serving schools. So students who are outplaced and might be attending Metro Prep or the other schools that we partner with. And we're building those relationships with their school administration and asking to be informed when students are missing school. They are still our students, we are still responsible for their education, so we need to know whether or not they are attending school.
That's it, I guess, unless anyone has questions. All right, well, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. That's good. So moving on to administrative reports, Superintendent, Mrs. Boozer.
I just have a quick little report today, and also kind of going off what Dr. Raviola said, and I do have a few quick slides to share with you. The back to school dash on Friday, and that was great, very well attended. Definitely something I think we should look at, and we took some notes on some ways we can even improve and do better next year, but it was a lot of fun. I have some action pictures there with some of our staff members who were in the bucket or the big splash that came down on them. Quite fun.
You guys were all really good sports, I gotta say. Really good sports.
That is all I have on my report today. Most of my things are in the discussion items today. Thank you. A lot of fun.
Special education, Mr. Baxter.
Yeah, so we've had a number of really great collaborations to kind of kick the year off. We actually had, just at the beginning of the school year, a number of opportunities with our special education staff meeting with grade level teams to go over IEP, accommodations, really get to the nitty gritty of like what does each student specifically need within that classroom. So there has been that opportunity to really thoroughly review that. So that's just a great way to kick off everything and make sure that we are legally in compliance, but then also again focused on student need. In addition to that, we are continuing a collaboration with West 40. They have been really great in supporting our 3 self-contained classrooms, making sure that we get some of our most unique learners in this district, how to make sure that they can learn within a substantial environment. And we also are looking to continue our collaboration with the West 40 BCBA, who is helping us to develop some of those behavior intervention plans for students who have some more complex behaviors. Also, we have been working very hard with our professional learning communities. So that is where our self-contained teachers are actually meeting with our related service staff. So our speech, OT, now PT, yay, but then also social work to make sure that we really are figuring out the best way to kind of create a system approach, very methodical routine approach for those students to make sure that they really understand they get the best education with it. And then the last update is that the Special Education Committee has met. We did review and finalize the paraprofessional matrix that you all have heard about in the past. We are going to be looking at ES-wide eligibility determination, also something I'd mentioned previously, but then we are also looking at AAC procedures, which I know previously you may have heard also how we had been looking at purchasing iPads to use to model alternative augmentative communication for students who have a different mode of communication. So that's my report.
Thank you. Building reports. Trial School, Mr. Biecki.
Well, we had a very busy summer. We did a lot of work. We reviewed a lot of our processes and procedures, and we built upon them. Staff spent the first 2.5 weeks teaching students how to be students, to follow not only building expectations, but classroom expectations. That 2.5 weeks will be retaught several times throughout the year, and our hope is that supports in reducing the number of referrals this school year. We're always looking to reduce that. Our PBIS Climate and Culture Committee has created an updated building matrix through our community partnership that the meetings we had in July. So we're excited about that building matrix. We're going to be getting new posters and banners that will be displayed throughout the building. Each staff member has created a classroom matrix that goes along with the building matrix, so we can unify that across the building. And our PBIS Culture and Climate Committee created a Tier 1 and Tier 2 student regulation routine that supports a student in need. If a student is having a crisis or needs support, and this builds off of Lee schools. So as you're a student of District 80, you go through Lee School, it'll carry over, changes a little, but carries over to the middle school. On Monday, yesterday, we had our Fall Picture Day. Picture retakes at Giles School are Friday, October 20th. Let's see, our WIN, we took a good look at WIN over the summer, and we revamped it, and we're really excited about the revamping. So our WIN is what I need. So we have our students that qualify for a Tier 2, Tier 3 intervention that work with our most qualified staff, our ELA, and our math teachers. But students that are on grade level or for an enrichment, on Mondays and Fridays we'll be doing novel reading. Tuesdays we'll be focusing on vocabulary. Wednesdays, we'll be looking at priority standards and reteaching and refocusing on those priority standards. And then Thursday, we'll be focusing on grammar. And then Friday is our second day of novel reading. So we're really excited about the changes that we made with our WIN program. Yesterday was the deadline for sign up for the Norwich Park District and after school enrichment program. We did a huge push. We had great conversations with Evan over at the Norwich Park District. So we're really excited. I'm hoping the data really is good from the registration, and we can get those classes started soon. And our building leadership team on Thursday will be working with each grade level team, and we'll be brainstorming field trip ideas across all grade levels, so that if you're in 5th grade, you're doing different field trips than 6th, 7th, and 8th, and so on for the other grade levels. So we're excited about that. A lot of great work's happening at Giles School. And that concludes my report.
Good, thank you. Lee School, Dr. Raviola.
Thank you. So we have been wrapping up our beginning of the year assessment. So that cycle is completed with the iReady diagnostic assessments in both ELA and math, and then also the oral reading fluency assessment in 2nd, 3rd, and 4th grade. And in addition, this week our teachers are completing what's called the SABRES assessment, which is assesses students in the social areas, emotional, and also there's some academic, more so academic behaviors. And then we'll be taking that data to then guide our social, emotional, behavioral groups that'll be formed as a result of that data analysis. We've started our wing time, which is what I mean. Students are moving between grade level team members. They may be receiving some intervention. They may just get some grade level reinforcement on the priority standard that's currently being taught, or they may receive a little bit of enrichment depending on their ability levels. And that's in both ELA and, excuse me, and math. So they have two separate 30-minute wing blocks. That has been something new that we incorporated this year for both ELA and math. Previously, there was just that one wing time, so we're really having a stronger emphasis on our math scores this year because that has been an area where we haven't seen as much growth as we have in reading. We've been working on our safety drills throughout this month. We've been trying to do one drill per week. We still have our lockdown drill to do, and also our severe weather drill to get those done in the next couple weeks. But we like to kind of ease our students into it as opposed to knocking them all out at one time. The North Park District enrichment programs will begin on Monday. And I believe we have 8 programs that are going to be running here at Lee. 2 of the programs had around 10 students, and the other 6 programs all had over 15 students. So it was pretty good enrollment in those programs for the fall, or for the first session, I should say. We have our picture day scheduled for Friday, October 13th. That's always a big day to look forward to. And excited enough that the kindergarten has their field trip planned for the month of October. They are planning to go to, or in the month of October, they are planning to go to a pumpkin patch. And learning about how pumpkins grow and connecting that to what they're learning in science. So that'll be a great field trip. And like Mr. Biedke had mentioned, we've really begun implementing all the systems that we worked on throughout the summer. There's been a lot of things that we've been working on with our MTSS system, with our attendance and tardies, the family communication like was just presented here, our PBIS Tier 1, our Culture and Climate Committee, similarly working on our school-wide matrix and calm down strategies and emotional regulation, and also our PBIS Tier 2 and how we're forming the groups that we're collecting the data on and hoping to see continual progress. I think the one thing about these systems is they always take some refining, so it's always a work in process and something that we're continuously working on to fine tune and make it even better. Like if there was just one set manual, that would make things a little too easy. But we have to continuously see what's going well and keep that going. And if things aren't working, then we make those adjustments. So that's the great part about using that system and just being able to identify different strategies that we can implement as a school and as a district. That concludes my report.
Thank you.
Quick question. To refresh my memory, the North Park Enrichment Program, is this the section where parents will pay a little bit of portion or no, not yet?
Correct, yes, we did 80-20 split. So 80% the district is covering and 20% parents are covering.
So nice to see the numbers that we.
Although we do not have Giles yet.
I don't have the numbers from Giles.
Yeah.
It closed.
It's closed yesterday.
It closed yesterday.
Yeah, that's good. Thank you.
Okay, discipline reports, Giles, Mrs. Ahrens.
No report this month.
Thank you. Lee, Mrs. Carnell.
At Lee, we have one out-of-school suspension in violation of board policy 7:199.
Monthly staffing report.
Yes, I did provide for the board our monthly staffing report. The good news, in our staffing report, we brought on 4 additional new subs this year so far, which we're really excited about. They've been up and running and doing a great job, which is great. The bad news, we still have 3 positions open, 3 paraprofessional positions that we have just refreshed out there and put out on Indeed as well in hopes that we can fill those. Right now, we're running some subs in those positions, but it really is best for us to have regular people in those positions. As Mr. Masters mentioned, we have a PT that we found, which is wonderful. The contract for PBS staff is on the consent agenda tonight. We have met her, and she is an experienced PT, just looking for some part-time work, so it fits in perfectly in what we need. And we also have a need for a certified school nurse. So the school nurse is only required when a special education evaluation has a health component to it. So not sure exactly how many, 5 to 10 throughout this year. We'll need the certified school nurse. We'll just be doing an hourly contract with a school nurse that we have found previously, which we'll talk more about in close up on the actual person. And that's everything on staffing. Moving along.
Board committees, education, nothing to report. Board's policy development, I'm told there's a policy 114 coming soon.
It's supposed to be a big one, so we haven't had a large one in a while, so this is going to be kind of like that large one we had before. A lot of, I know some update on the bullying policy, update on wellness, and I think we're going to see a return of the comprehensive sex standards coming back out again as well. So we'll keep that as a policy of the whole. As soon as I get it, I'll send it out to you, and then we can talk about it at the next meeting. I'll present on anything that's changed. As you know, we've had a couple of updates, just footnotes and just little updates. This one is supposed to be a big change.
Building grounds, nothing to report that isn't going to be covered in Superintendent Guzik's discussion items. I do want to note that we will need an October meeting. We'll think of some dates and schedule that. Behavioral intervention, nothing to report. Negotiations and human resources, nothing to report. Finance committee, we just had a meeting preceding this 7 p.m. meeting today. And we've established we need a 6:30 meeting in November, right before the November regular meeting, and a 6:30 meeting right before the December regular meeting. Communications, we need to get a date together to discuss development, what we want to do. All are welcome. Norwich Park District, and we'll discuss in closed session.
Yeah, we did meet with them on August 28th, so we have stuff to talk about.
That's right. Okay, that covers board committees. On to discussion items.
Thank you. So I have quite a lengthy report tonight. My intent is to update the board on everything that is going on. So I'll go into some great detail and some just overview. If there are any questions, please stop me along the way or at any point. So first, excited to announce our theme for the year. I did not mention this to you in August because I wanted to bring it out to the teachers first. But our theme is Believe. In August, we went with Believe in District 80. At our first Institute Day, we talked about what Believe means, and we talked about what it means to be all in the district, all in for our students. We get doing everything we can for our students. And then we had the teachers work in groups to decide the rest of our themes for each month. In September, they chose high expectations with goal setting and the word accountability. Accountability meaning to meet deadlines, to meet times that when things are due, to have them turned in, and to be completing the work that's expected. Really excited about that. You have all received t-shirts with our Believe theme on it. A little peek into October. Our theme for October is coworkers and teams. So we will be doing some things within our buildings around our theme of coworkers and themes and teams. This month we've been working on high expectations with goal setting. And they've been working not only with their own goals, but with the students on creating goals and having just a culture of high expectations. So really excited about our theme. And as you can see, we have our mission statement on our icon, so that we keep that in all that we do here in District 80. Just a quick update on financial services, as we talked about in our meeting earlier. Tonight, we're asking you to pass a resolution which would move $1,750,000 out of working cash into the education fund. It is very important for us to keep a healthy balance in working cash for situations like this, where we can move the money, and then as the tax bills come in, which we are expecting them to go out sometime in early November, then we should start receiving tax dollars by December 1st, and then of course we'll return the money from the ed fund into working cash as soon as we receive all of our tax dollars. And we are able to move the $1.750 back. We couldn't do this without that healthy balance in working cash, and that means that the district will not or should not need to go out for any kind of loan, which is great. We wouldn't have to pay any interest on anything. So it is because of the board's attention to our healthy working cash balances that we keep moving forward. If taxes were paid on time, as August, we wouldn't even need this. That's our financial services. In buildings and grounds today, that's many updates. So we'll begin with the update on the facilities plan. The Lee lunchroom bathrooms are finished and open. I understand they were quite a novelty at the beginning. Every kid wanted to go into the bathroom, even if they had to go or not. They enjoyed the bathroom. So I think that's dying down a bit, and we're just getting into the regular routine that there are 2 bathrooms down there, and it's like they've been there the whole time. Little things that have to be finished with them, the ceiling tile grid still has to be put in, but they've passed inspection. As far as the fire safety goes, they're great, they're open, and they've been a wonderful addition to the Lee lunchroom. The Lee 102 conversion, which was the classroom directly across from the Lee office, is still being worked on. As you recall, there are 2 ADA-style bathrooms going in there, 3 offices and a conference room. It's scheduled to be completed by the end of September. I am expecting a delay on that, but I'm not saying that out loud. They're expected to be finished by the end of September. And that will be, what we'll be moving in those offices will be some social work and psychologist services. And then the conference room will be used for IEP meetings or any larger parent meetings. Should fit about 12 or 14 people when it's all finished. We're really excited about it. They look great. A couple things that need to be finished in there. The epoxy floor needs to be poured, the ceiling grid needs to be completed, and the fire department, Fox Valley needs to come back out again and complete the AVs. The fire panel and the alarm monitoring are completed. So as you recall, both schools have a new fire panel, quite an investment. The fire department, the Norwood Park Fire Department, is very happy that we've taken this move. And updated all of the AVs, everything in every room. In addition to that, this was a good time for us because the contracts were up on our alarm monitoring. Our contract on fire alarm monitoring has already been up. On burglar alarm monitoring is up in October. So the B&G, specifically Derek, has been working a lot on trying to look at our options. Today in consent agenda, we have you, I'm asking you to approve Fox Valley for our alarm for fire and Lux security systems for our alarm for burglar alarm. That brings us a $9,000 savings from what we had done with the previous company. So really great job on the B&G side. It does seem when they really take time, which it takes a lot of time to communicate with companies and get different quotes, that we've really been successful on lowering our costs. which is something we're working on. So that 9,000 savings is great. As we mentioned earlier, we are looking at a committee meeting for October. Committee, B&G really drives a lot of our finance, so we'd be looking at our next steps and zeroing in on our summer 2024 plans. Projects that we're in the planning phase of right now. We are going out to bid in October for the admin area. This is a previously approved bid. We did bid it last year, right towards the end of the school year, trying to kind of sneak it in over the summer. However, that did not prove to be successful. So we're excited about putting the bid back out there and looking at possibly a winter construction time. This is the area that is 101 and 103, the area down the hall there, that were the preschool rooms. We're basically just looking at some walls going up, nothing real fancy. Kindergarten and fourth grade, as you may recall, we worked in their classrooms. In fact, kindergarten over there, and hung up over there on the side today, shared with you a thank you card. They're very excited about their new classroom, their new furniture, and they just feel they're awesome. Awesome new stuff, so they wanted to thank you for that. We are still working on the call buttons. These are the buttons that you push inside the classroom that go directly to the office. So that is still being worked on, and the clocks. There were these kind of old antiquated systems in there that none of the clocks were working. Many of the call buttons weren't working, so those were taken out during the work in the classrooms when they were all painted and updated with lights and all the furniture. So we're still in the process of the call buttons. There are phones in the room, so it isn't a safety issue, but it is best to have those and the clocks. So we're still working on that. Outdoor spaces, we are doing a study of the Lee and the Giles outdoor spaces right now. We have a couple of plans on paper. NSF is doing a chocolate fundraiser right now with the world's finest chocolate. One of the things that they are looking at are Gaga Pits, which is basically a round circle game where the kids play inside of it. And I believe at Lee, they're also looking at an outdoor sensory space. When we talk about the outdoor spaces, those are great to add in, but really when we're looking especially at the Lee outdoor space, we need some major work in the courtyard area. The area in the courtyard is not flooding anymore. However, it isn't really graded properly, and it also doesn't really grow grass very well back there. So we're kind of looking at a whole, what can we do with it, and trying not to just put a quick Band-Aid on it, which is, we have actually done it. We've had that sodded a couple of times, we've had seeded a couple of times, and it just, none of that is working. So we're looking for something that can be a little more permanent, that we can fix the issues that we have in the courtyard. Over at Giles, we're looking at the front area of Giles where that playground is, that we no longer really need at Giles. So looking at that space becoming an outdoor classroom, taking out the playground, putting in some tables, and then looking at a tented system, which there's lots of different options, where the kids can be outside and working in a classroom setting. So those are kind of the studies that we're working on right now in our outdoor spaces, and obviously looking at funding for both of those. We have been doing a study of lockers. As if you've been in the district for a while, you know this has been something we've discussed many, many times. And we have had in the past someone come out to measure the hallways to see if we can put lockers in the hallways, and that has been something that would be challenging for us. However, what we are now looking at are lockers inside of the classroom. So currently right now inside each of the classrooms there's an area, kind of pushed in little area that has hooks. Believe it or not, the hooks have a safety concern. What we'd really like to do is take those hooks down and put in a bank of lockers. I met with an individual from a locker company last week, looking at 27 lockers going into the space. Basically the locker was 15 by 15, so it wasn't the long, it was more like 15 by 15 square side, which would be able to put in coats and backpacks and things like that for the students' work. So that's just something we're working on right now and looking into. We don't have a definite plan on that yet, but it's an option that we're looking at, and I think that would be wonderful for both buildings. Today on the agenda, I am asking you for permission to go out to bid on alarm locks and gateway systems. So the alarm locks, as you know, safety is a big concern. We're always looking at how we can provide more safety in our building. This year, all of our classroom doors are locked, which provides a safe environment. However, it's challenging for when the kids come out or different staff members go in. It has really provided, it has proven some challenges for us. Alarm locks wouldn't settle all of those challenges. We'd still have to let the kids in. We still have to have a system. However, if we had alarm locks that were by a fob system that we have in all of our outside doors, and we put gateways in, which would be basically in the hallway, in the ceilings, which would allow us to remotely work those alarms, work those doors. We would actually be able to, in essence, press a button and lock down every hallway, every door, every building, in both buildings. So we would like to go out to bid on that. I don't know exactly where that will be as far as prices go. Our estimate is probably $75,000 to $100,000. But we want to get that information and then, of course, go from there if we feel like that is something that we want to put our finances towards. It's an important thing. Like, for example, I have done some lockdown drills over at Ridgewood. Ridgewood has this system. They literally press a button and every hallway closes and locks it. Obviously, you have to have egress doors that get out for safety, but this would be something that would just be safer. And when they do research on school safety, they really believe that a locked door makes a difference on any safety episodes that have happened in schools. It's just the path of least resistance, and a locked door makes people go on. Another project we're talking about right now is the Giles limestone. So on the northeast corner of Giles, so if you are coming down Oleander, right where Cullum, right there, all of Oleander and Cullum, the gate where people come in, on that side of the building, the limestone is starting to separate away from the building. This is not a structural thing, because there is a structural system in place, and that looks fine. However, the limestone is starting to pull off. So we have the architect right now going through that area and looking at options for removal of the limestone, supporting of the limestone, putting in a support beam with some columns, just looking at all of our options. That actually would be an excellent area for us to use the infrastructure grant for, because that is infrastructure jobs. It's questionable on what other spaces are considered infrastructure, so we've been working with STR, with Alan about that, so we can identify exactly what that is. And then continuing our classroom updates. As you know, we did kindergarten and fourth grade. The plan is to keep going along at Lee before we go into Giles. This is a 5-year project. It's not something that we'll do overnight, but as we move along, then it'll be complete, and then we'll start back up on whatever we do the classroom again. As I think I mentioned to you before, we have not painted classrooms in years. So moving on with our classroom facilities. In our 10-year life safety, I'm proud to announce that all of our immediate need A's have been completed. The only area that right now that was on that list as an A that has actually been moved on to extension is that wood ceiling at Giles. If you recall the 5th, 6th grade hallway, there is that wood ceiling. It is considered safe, but it is something that we need to do probably this next year with educating. The question is, do we take the wood ceiling down? Do we paint the wood ceiling with a special paint that would seal in the wood and that it wouldn't be flammable? We're looking into other options. That is also something STR has been working with us on, and we're also thinking that would be part of the infrastructure grant. So we're kind of excited about that. Actually, Mr. Rossi wants to do this project himself. He's super excited about taking down that wood. So we'll see how that goes. The only concern we have is, so where the wood is, there's a 2x4 system above that. What we don't know at this moment is if there's asbestos above that 2x4. If there is, and that abatement could be quite costly, then we may just look at sealing in and hauling that in. So we'll be looking at all of our options on that. And lastly, just to mention a couple of grants in this section of B&G, the infrastructure grant, which we are receiving from the state. This is a state grant, so we're identifying projects that qualify for that funding. That's supposed to be in by November 1st, so I'm expecting to have that in as soon as the B&G meeting is completed. And then we are hearing the state maintenance grant is supposed to open again. So if you remember, this was a 50-50 split. So we spent $50,000, they match us $50,000. That could be a good thing that we might use for the locks, the alarm locks. It's an option. It is nice when you have kind of something that costs $100,000 in there instead of piecemealing things together. But we'll see. We'll have to see where it is. It hasn't opened yet, but we've heard from several sources that we believe it's going to be opening soon. Very happy about that. And lastly, in the B&G area, we are posting, which you have a copy of today, a buildings and grounds seasonal position. The reason we chose to go with a seasonal position is we want to bring on an additional person. However, we want to make sure that that's the person we want to live with. So we're going to bring them on seasonally. And then if we get to a point that we want to actually bring that person on as a permanent person of our B&G, we will. But right now, we're just looking at a seasonal position. So we're looking at this person working a later shift, perhaps even Saturdays, maybe working Tuesday to Saturday, which would put a presence in our building, especially Giles on a Saturday when we have the rental going on. We also probably can kick back a little bit on the citywide person that comes in, because remember that citywide for citywide on Saturday. One earlier to let everyone in, and then one later who cleans. The one who comes earlier does do things in the building, however, that could be something we can do. And we're talking about a later shift, so maybe the person comes in 11 to 7, and then if there is a rental, the rental gets off on the ground and is doing well also. So really excited about that, working on maintenance that can't be done when there are kids in the building, painting, of course outdoor care, and then working with citywide. The next area are the district safety plans. So when we talk about the plans for the district with safety, we're talking about different layers that are all in effect that work together to create our safety plan. It's not one thing that we say keeps us safe, or one thing that we do that is the perfect thing that keeps everything going and safe. So I'm going to talk to you about several different layers that we have of safety. The Norwich Police Department works with us. They come in and actually work with us on safety plans. They are part of our threat assessment team. So whenever we have a review of our threat assessment materials, and this is also student threat assessment, so a student who might say they want to self-harm, anything like that, they come in and review the materials with us. We meet with them in the summer, we talk about safety plans. They also have a presence with walking through the buildings. Several times we see the police department coming through. They do attend a lunch period at Giles as well. Just keep the presence of the police within the building. And when they do walk through the building, they check all our doors, they check that everything is secure, they check everything is safe and closed. And believe me, if it's not, they certainly let us know if there's any problem. They do some street safety, which I know lately has been a bit of a learning experience for them, because it doesn't help if they're out there and they're not actually doing the work that needs to be done out there. So we've been communicating with the Norwich Police Department to make sure that they are following the procedures and making sure that families know clearly what areas they can park in and what areas they can drive down, and make sure they understand that. They also provide crossing guards for us. You don't think about that, but they provide many crossing guards through the Norwich Police Department. And then they help us in an education view. They are coming out September 27th to Giles to do a See Something, Say Something discussion with Mr. Biecki. They also have in the past done a bullying presentation with us. I'm not sure if we're continuing that this year or not. We haven't discussed it. And of course, they provide DARE to our 5th graders. So the police department is one layer in our safety plan, and it has many different parts to it. We can continue to explore, as we talked about previously in the summer, the idea of a school resource officer with the police department as well, if that is something that the board wishes for us to look at. And that would just be another layer into this plan. The next layer of safety is something new that I'd like to talk to the board about tonight, and that is having a contract with Interquest Detection Canines. They provide school-friendly programs. They currently, right now, go out to Ridgewood High School, often with friendly, non-intimidating presence of dogs. They bring dogs who look for and focus on contraband, things that shouldn't be on the campus. Things like illicit drugs, alcohol, gunpowder-based items, and medications. Really, the goal of this is not to scare anyone, but the goal is just to have a positive presence to help everyone feel comfortable, feel safe in school. So they would visit both schools throughout the year. That would then be announced. We would send a letter out to the parents and let them know that this is something that we're going to start doing. We have done this one time in the past, in September, 2019, just a one time at Giles, basically looking for vapes at that time. What happens is when the dog finds something, the dog simply sits down. In the videos, if you go into Interquest Detection Canines, they show the dogs in the schools, very friendly dogs. They're all just sitting around, kind of waiting to find something, and then when they find something, they simply sit down. Amazing thing done with these dogs. They actually train at Ridgewood High School over the summer. So I would like to bring on another layer of safety and have the dogs start coming in. I would send a letter to our parents this week, inform them that this is another layer of our safety plan, and then just bring them in as we need them. Mr. Bianchi and I would work on some times for that schedules, and of course that would be unannounced. And I'm sorry, they would also come into Lee. They would do Giles and Lee. So I'm sorry I didn't mention Dr. Regular. We've come up with a schedule for that, but not something we share with people. And then if something is found, we will certainly proceed by following policy on what would be needed. Any questions about the Interquest? I know that's new. That's just another layer. The next layer, and I have given you policy 8:30. This policy just needs to be updated. Currently, right now, it does not state that it states that people should report to the principal's office. That really should say school office. I know that's minor, but at Giles, there is a principal's office and there is a school's office, so we do want to make sure that that's clear. It also does not state that people provide it says they show their identification, but not that they provide it and we keep it. We started this actually in 2019. I can't tell you why we haven't updated the policy. I don't know, but I think this is a good time to do it. And then also just that they must wear a visitor's badge. So what happens then is the visitor goes back to the office, gives back their visitor's badge, and then the administrative assistant hands them their ID. If for some reason someone is going to be there after 4 o'clock and the administrative assistant is there, then they work with the principal or assistant principal, whoever is in the building at that time on the ID. This is just an introduction at this point. Next month I will bring you the language crossed out with what we want to change it with. Again, just another layer of safety. Then just our threat assessment team. We are required by the Illinois State Board of Education to have a threat assessment team, which we do have. We turn in the paperwork and the plan every year to West 40. They asked for that before our first day of school. Our team on that is the Norwich Police Department. The Norwich Fire Department is there as well, as our psychologists, our social workers, our supervisors, our directors, our principals, and our superintendent. So you do have the buildings and grounds supervisor there, our directors are all there, everyone that works together on our team, on our threat assessment team. West 40 takes a big role in that, so they came out and toured our buildings. They gave us some feedback on safety measures, which I just received. So I will be giving that first to the October B&G meeting to look at what safety things were identified with West 40. This is a little different than the normal compliance. Remember when we were compliant with West 40 last year, everything was fine. This is now recommendations of how we can improve the safety within our building. We're certainly in compliance with West 40 and all the ideas and the safety areas. However, they're now saying, you know what, you could really put another layer of safety by doing this. You can really improve it by doing that. So we'll be unpacking those reports, starting first at the B&G meeting in October, and then finding if we want to put any resources towards that. Safety, as I'm sure you recall, is one of our areas in our district's strategic plan, and putting our finances towards, what affects the students, and safety, of course, is one of those areas. We also review our threat assessment forms. Again, if there's a student who is self-harming or claiming to hurt someone else, then there is a very detailed procedure that happens after that. Any questions about safety? Great, just moving forward on a quick update of our district grants. As I mentioned earlier, really exciting. Yesterday I received an email that we qualified for additional seats for the Preschool for All grant. At this moment, I don't know how many. I applied for 66 additional seats, which would bring us to 100 students in our program. I did have to state when I put in the application that we'd be up and running by November 1st. I assume that's the date they're going to tell us. We'll have to see. What we'll do is we'll go back to our waiting lists that we have, and then do some additional screening. We have our next screening date for PFA on September 29th. So if anyone knows any 3 and 4-year-olds, please have them reach out to the district to come in for screening. And then we will hopefully bring in 100 kids. Currently, right now, we're only using 2 of the new classrooms. This would then move us into the 3rd, which is very exciting. That would give us the capacity of 120 students total with our 3 and 4-year-olds. Just an update on the West Connect Community Grant. This grant, as you recall, is in its 2nd year now. This is the grant that we work with the library, with the Norwich Park District, with NAMI, with West 40, with Midwest PBIS, and Ridgewood High School. And this grant is really worked towards our community that we all are part of, and how we can be mentally and physically healthy is the focus of this grant. So we have a couple really exciting things coming up this year. NAMI in November is going to start some Monday evening events, 5:30, 6:30 here at Lee, 7 to 8 over at Giles. And these events are going to have some themes, but also offer some open ending for parent support. So if a parent is having trouble with working with their child at home on social emotional behavioral topics, they can come in and work with someone from NAMI, which is the National Alliance for Mental Illness, and get some support. So we're really excited about that we're not up and running with that yet, but that is November. We also have going out our SEL corner, which is going out at Lee, and it will continue to give us some more updates about our SEL second step system. I think the one actually next week is the actual, or this week is the actual telling us about second step, so that parents can know what the kids are learning in second step here, and then help support it at home. There'll be weekly videos that are going out to really just building up this system. I'd like to share with you just for a moment here on one of the weekly videos the first one that's going out, which you have not seen, and just really happy at how this turned out and how professional it looks. So this one was put together by our own Mrs. Carnell and by NAMI. Put this together. This is part of the grant. This wasn't a cost to us. They will be, the Giles one I don't have yet. I know Mr. Biecki was in the Giles one, I don't have that. And then we'll be doing these weekly now going forward. Well, they're going to try weekly. It might take us a little time to get to weekly.
school, we have 3 school-wide expectations that students get all the way from pre-K through their 4th grade year at least. And those expectations are be safe, be respectful, and be responsible. And the main goal of us being able to focus in on those 3 expectations is so students have that common language throughout their entire time here at Lee, and as they continue on their jobs here in District 80, it's important that students can utilize that common language and have a good understanding of what our school-wide expectations are in every space of the school. So the behavior hotspots that we have at Lee are all the common places that students might be in a given day. So the hallway, the bathroom, the cafeteria, the gym, any of our specialist classrooms. And the hotspots have posters. So those posters show the kids how to be safe, respectful, and responsible, again, using that same common language in every part of the building. So what does safety, respect, and responsibility look like in all those spaces? It gives students a visual, and also it's a great guide for teachers to reinforce those expectations by referencing them, asking students to review them, and utilizing them with our school-wide matrix, because we have a matrix that involves the entire school, the hotspots, and also the individual teachers' classrooms. So again, using that common language in every space at school. So the pause system is probably one of our favorite things about the school when it comes to students. The cool thing about pause is it allows teachers to acknowledge in a positive way how students are being respectful, safe, and responsible by giving them paper pause. That is basically our form of currency here at Lee School. The students accumulate the pause that they earn for being safe, respectful, and responsible. Teachers use that classroom matrix to give them specific praise that's related to what's on the matrix, so students know exactly how they're being safe, or respectful, or responsible. And after they've accumulated their pause, they get to visit with their class and their grade level to the Palm Mart. And in the Palm Mart, there's a lot of different items for students to purchase with their pause, but my personal favorite item in the Palm Mart is our morning song raffle. Students get to enter a raffle where they get to pick the song that plays in the morning while students are walking in the building, and that's probably been one of our most popular choices. That and the Starbucks gift card raffle, which I also can't blame them for that. That's a pretty exciting thing. Absolutely. One of the great things about having some of this common language that we're using, being safe, being respectful, being responsible, is that we can carry it into all facets of our life. So I think parents can really help support at home by using that behavior-specific praise, acknowledging the things that they see their children doing correctly when it comes to those components, and just having conversations about it. What I always tell the staff at Lee is that we want to focus on what we want to see in the classroom. When we focus on the positive, we're going to get more positive. So I would say the same to parents is really focus on the things that you see your child doing well when it comes to being safe and respectful and responsible, and talk to them about it. Maybe you can even tie your own little reward system to it. I know that really helps motivate the kids here at Lee, and just hearing it, having that personal touch and being very specific instead of just good job or thank you for being responsible. Give them that specific information. What was it that they did that shows responsibility? What does responsibility look like or sound like or even feel like? It's important to use that language to help students grow in their social emotional capacity.
amount, and I think it's a great support for parents to be able to hear what the students are learning in their SEL lessons, and then just hear about the system here at Lee. I think it looks great. So we'll get the dials on, and we're expected to send out Friday, correct? And then after that, it should be every week or so after that. The last grant to mention, two more. The Cures grant, which we talked a little bit about earlier, which is the after-school enrichment program. We did start an 80-20 split with parents this time. So we cover 80% of the fee, and parents are covering 20% of the fee for the after-school enrichment programs, which still brings it at a very reasonable amount. And then it's also for all our after-school tutoring. We brought in a new layer of after-school tutoring at Giles this year, where we have specific math tutoring, we have specific ELA tutoring going on, so if the students can drop in whenever they need to. So they just can come into the tutoring, and then there's also a behavior component for after school if needed, and that is by the administrative team invites students to that if they have to stay after school for detention for behavior. So we're using everything from Cures on that. That grant is actually scheduled to end in December of 2024. They extended that out a little bit. It was going to be September, but they brought that a little bit later. So that's nice, a nice extension for us. And then ESSER 3, we have $830,000 left on ESSER 3. Mostly that is covering chillers, the last 3 chillers that we've ordered, coming in with the installing the chillers, putting in the pads that they sit on, the concrete things, everything that's involved with the chillers. We may have a little bit of money left after that, which we can discuss what to do with, but mostly that's probably going to go towards the chillers. So follow-up and future options. As Mr. Biecki mentioned, all the grade levels are currently planning field trip experiences for the students. This is at a cost to parents. This is not something that we have a budget for within our line item budgets. Buses are expensive, so these trips do come out to, in the $20 range with the buses. So we're excited about that and excited about offering them back for our students. We do also have our Preschool for All program has the animals coming to visit. I can't remember the date right now, it's in October. It's the wonderful woman who has all the exotic strange animals that she brings in, which will be a lot of fun. So we did do a very, very informal kind of first poll of our 7th and 8th grade parents. And what we asked them, of the 7th grade parents, we said, would you be interested in a Springfield trip this year? As you might recall, we used to go to Springfield before COVID. The cost of the trip would be covered by the parents, and I believe it was $175 this was from a company that we reached out to that runs these trips. This would cover that coach bus. Now this is a special kind of bus because you have to have a bathroom on it. So they are expensive, and every meal and everything the students will be doing that day. So it has some breakfast that they can eat on the bus. We ended up, when we did this before, actually attended this trip, we left at about 4:30 in the morning. We ended up, driving the 3 hours to Springfield, spent the whole day going to many different museums and exhibits, and all that was covered. And then we had lunch. Some more things in the afternoon, and then came back. Now that trip, we actually came back at 8 somewhere along the way back. What they're projecting is eating in Springfield and then coming back. Of the 55 families in 7th grade that responded, and this was just a 1-week survey that went out, 49 of them said yes, they would support that, and 6 said no, that they would not. That the 6 that were no, generally it was a cost issue, and it was they just didn't want their child to go that far. We also asked the 8th grade parents that at the same time, because they didn't have that opportunity to attend last year. We did have 50 responses, of 46 of them said yes and 4 said no. Basically the same with the no. We also, in the 8th grade survey, asked about Washington, D.C. We did do Washington, D.C. in 2019. They traveled on a bus there, which they traveled straight through on a coach bus, spent a couple of days in D.C. and then came back. Then in 2020, they were scheduled to actually go to DC again, 8th grade, however, that was canceled due to COVID. I don't remember what month they were going, but everything shut down in March, they were going in April and May. So Mr. Bianchi did some research into companies that offer these trips. This would be a 3-day trip. This would actually be flying. It's a little bit under $1,500 cost per student, and it covers everything on the trip. So all the meals, if there are any fees for going into any of the museums, it covers that. As you know, most of the museums, if they stay with the Smithsonian ones, they are all free. However, there are some that are worth going to that do cost money. If we decided to do this, we would have a parent night where the company would come out, they would present the trips, present what that looks like, and then parents would, I believe the parents pay directly to the company. We don't have anything to do with the money, we don't make any money on it, we don't have anything to do with that. I'm sure they make money on it, that's their business, so. So on those two areas, if the board would give me some input on our next steps, if you would like, based on this, 30 people of the 50 responded yes, and 20 of the people responded no. This would be also a big chaperone, we'd bring lots of chaperones with us, which they would have to cover their own trip as well. So for a family attending with a chaperone, I mean, with their child, it's $3,000, which is a lot of money. Mr. Bianchi and I would attend as well on the 3-day adventure. So think about that and let me know what you would like me to do on next steps. I don't think we'd want to do 8th grade Springfield and 8th grade Washington. And of course, we'd still keep the 8th grade trips, you know, the end of the 8th grade trip where they go to main event or they do that fun thing for themselves. We'd still keep that for them to be able to just have a great day together and enjoy the fun that they have. So we could be looking at just doing Springfield with 7th grade and 8th grade on 2 separate days this year, or we could be looking at 7th grade. It looks like for 7th grade we have we have a good enough response to say we can go forward with that. And then if we decided to do 8th grade, I would, because we want to do Springfield also for 8th grade. But, I mean, the board could want to do them both. It just would be a large cost.
Did the Washington DC company speak of, give a minimum?
I'm not aware of that. I don't think so.
I didn't hear the question.
Did they give a minimum amount of students or chaperones?
Not that I recall.
My recollection of 2020 when they were going, they had 30 students attending. But now this was not a commitment from people. This was just, would you, the question was, would you spend the $1,500 to send your child? Would you be interested in that? Of which 30 people said yes. Now we only did have 50 responses. How many students are in 8th grade?
130. The minimum number is just requires what chaperones will be covered. If they cover a chaperone, it's just, if there's a certain number, they'll cover so many chaperones. Based on the number. The number is the same for every student, don't matter if 10 go, 20 go, 50 go.
The total amount of students or chaperones that the company needs to see for them to take on.
Correct.
Take them to school again.
Correct.
And my last, my last item in this section is our October BO board meeting. Just give you a little highlight of what we're going to be talking about. The principals, we're talking about the school improvement plans, the update of those as they presented those to you last year at the end of the year. We're going to be looking at first trimester data, as they both mentioned earlier, that they've been gathering and looking at for their when, what I need periods. I will also give you an update on fees and then an update on the residency searches that are taking place currently right now. We so far have identified 3 families that they're questioning that they do not live in Orange. They're certainly looking through many others, but 3 that they feel they are asking them to enroll somewhere else. So I'll give you an update on that next month. Just my quick legislative update. As I mentioned earlier, the state is coming out with a new bullying policy. This should be in that next update that we see from press. This state bullying policy puts a definition on bullying, which I think will be very interesting when we finalize that, when they see that, because bullying has certain parts to it that must be there in order to identify it as bullying. There has to be power over one student over another, one person over another, and it has to be repetitive. So if somebody is mean to someone one time, that actually isn't in the state definition of what bullying is. So the new policy, which is going to state you have to identify if it actually is bullying or not. Then, if it is bullying, then you have 24 hours to notify both sets of parents, or all sets of parents, any parents that are involved. You have to notify them, which I am not concerned with, because I feel we do this very well already. And then you have to document and offer supportive measures. Again, I'm not concerned about it, but we do want to make sure that we're following whatever policy that the state is putting out there. This actually doesn't go into effect till next school year, but I think they're going to be talking about it quite a bit all of this year. The next one's kind of interesting, and I don't think I've mentioned this to you before, but as of July 1st, Senate Bill 1872 came out that said that teachers that are hired after July 1st of 23-24 actually reach tenure in year 3 instead of year 4. So our question was, if you're hired in April or May, before the July date, are you on the 4-year track? And then everyone after July 1st is on the 3-year track. So we are following what our law firm, Kriya Bochek, decided that anyone that was hired for the 23-24 school year is considered on the 3-year track moving forward. Now this is important because when you are in your first 3 years previously to this new law, we can just simply non-renew someone for no reason. No reason has to be given. We have a reason, but no reason has to be given. When you're in your 4th year, that's a different kind of resolution, and we do need to give a reason why we would non-renew someone. Now, this is not a RIF. This is different from a reduction in force. This is just, we simply say to someone, thanks for working with us this year. You know, we're not going to bring you back the next year. So what that means now is in our 3rd year, we would need to give that reason, and only in the first 2 years, we can have an employee that we can let go without giving a reason. Different paperwork, different procedures, but I think it's very interesting. What's not answered in this is what happens if someone is in their 4th year right now? What are they considered already tenured? The law is not clear on that. And what Kriya Bochek feels is at some point that's going to get challenged, and it's going to have to get figured out at some point. Because if you are letting go of 4th-year teacher, you have the right to do that before July 1st. Now, we don't know if you have that right anymore. So it'll be an interesting thing to watch. And then just the last one to share with you that they have decided that on the RIF list, so the reduction in force list, which has to be shared before the December 1st meeting with the association, that we now have to include race and ethnicity. Just another new law that has passed. That is everything I have on discussion items. I know that is a lot. We have a lot going on. So I want to keep you as informed as possible on everything that we are doing.
Very fantastic. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, consent agenda. I need a motion to approve 16A through 16Y.
Motion.
Who's first? And Maria. Can I get a roll call?
Mrs. McPhillips?
Yes.
Mrs. Theodore? Yes. Mrs. Latla?
Yes.
Mrs. Deck?
Yes.
Mr. Berardi?
Yes.
Mrs. Urbach Barnfield?
Yes.
Mr. Trabuzio?
Yes. Motion passes. Any discussion? Okay. to 17 action items. I need a motion to approve 17A and 17B.
Motion. Second.
Lauren and Molly, can I get a roll call?
Mrs. Urbach Barnfield,
Yes.
Mrs. Deck,
Yes.
Mr. Berardi,
Yes.
Mrs. Lala,
Yes.
Mrs. McPhillips,
Yes.
Mrs. Theodore,
Yes.
and Mr. Trabuzio.
Yes. Any discussion about this? Okay, the motion passes. Board comments. Stan? Okay.
So I think we've forgotten the successes that we participated in that parade and we followed the instructions that were given to us.
Yes.
Yes.
Very much so. Others, thank you.
Yes, thank you for bringing it up. That actually was a really nice day. It's nice to celebrate 75.
I need a motion to adjourn to closed session to discuss the appointment, employment, compensation, discipline, performance, or dismissal of specific employees, the purchase of lease or for lease of real property for the use of public body, including meetings held for the purpose of discussing whether a particular person should be acquired, placement of individual students in a special education program, and other matters related to individual students. Collective negotiating matters between the public body and its employees or their representatives, or deliberations concerning salary schedules for one or more classes of employees, and review of closed session minutes. Can I get a motion? Who's it first? Amanda and Ray. Can I get a roll call?
Mrs. McPhillips,
Yes.
Mrs. Theodore,
Yes.
Mrs. Lala,
Yes.
Mrs. Deck,
Yes.
Mr. Berardi,
Yes.
Mrs. Urbach Barnfield,
Yes.
Mr. Trabuzio.
Yes. Motion passes. We'll meet in Tiger Territory at 8:40 at 10:58. We do not need a roll call. Moving on to action item. Well, actually, I'm sorry. I need a motion to approve 20A through 21D.
Motion. Second.
That was Molly and Fanny.
No.
Any discussion?
It was me, not Mom.
Oh, I'm sorry.
She got credit.
No discussion. Can I get a roll call?
Mrs. Urbach Barnfield,
Yes.
Mrs. Theodore,
Yes.
Mrs. McPhillips,
Yes.
Mrs. Lala,
Yes.
Mrs. Deck,
Yes.
Mr. Berardi,
Yes.
Mr. Trabuzio.
Yes. The motion passes. And now for the ever important board meeting reflection. Okay. I need a motion to adjourn this.
Motion.
This meeting. That was Lauren and who? Who's the second?
Second.
And Amanda, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? The meeting is now adjourned.